Hello, dear listeners of the Povestiri Ku Agnese channel. Today, I bring you a story filled with humor, romantic entanglements, and clumsy dance moves. Imagine starting a relationship only to slowly discover that your boyfriend might be looking much more lovingly at someone else. Yes, that's exactly what happened to me. But don't worry, it's not a soap opera-level drama, but a story that ended with bursts of laughter and, of course, with me as the queen of the dance floor. So grab your popcorn and get ready to hear how I went from being the official girlfriend to the unofficial godmother in a story only life could write. I was Rania, a 26-year-old woman, looking back at a period of my life that I can proudly say, I'm proud of. I had a sister, a year younger than me. We grew up together, almost like twins, bound by a complicity that only sisters can understand. We lived with our parents in the heart of the city, in a spacious apartment where every corner bore traces of our childhood. School was nearby, and the walks there had become a morning routine for us. Always together, always in the same school, the same high school, like two shadows reflecting each other. When it was time for high school, we were admitted to the same institution. In the eyes of our classmates and teachers, we were daddy's smart girls. Two diligent, disciplined girls, always with our homework done and answers ready. Our parents encouraged us to focus on the future, to study hard, and to build a stable path for ourselves. But at the same time, they gave us a freedom that few teenagers had. They often told us that when the time came to fall in love, we shouldn't hide anything from them. No secret meetings, no sneaking around. Instead, we should bring the boys in our lives home. It was an unwritten rule, but one we understood well. Our parents didn't want secrets between us. They assured us they understood, that they had been young once too, and that they wouldn't forbid us anything as long as we were honest. It seemed like a simple pact, a promise of mutual trust. It was a prom night, one of those evenings filled with light, music, and outfits that squeaked from too much glitter. I, in my usual rebellious nature, couldn't stay still and found myself in the center of the dance floor, surrounded by friends, making moves that probably looked more like a drunk penguin chick than the elegant dance I had imagined. But hey, I was having fun, and that was all that mattered. At one point, I looked up and saw him, Kodran. He was standing next to a huge vase of artificial flowers, with an expression somewhere between shy and fascinated, his eyes fixed on me. It wasn't a fleeting glance, but a persistent one, as if he was trying to solve a complicated equation. My sister Andrea, however, was as calm and composed as ever. She was the type to let things happen naturally, while I was the one who forced things to happen, preferably with a bit of drama and a lot of flair. So when I caught Kodran's gaze, I decided it was time to take action. I made my way through the crowd, stopped in front of him, and with a provocative smile asked, "Do you dance?" He froze for a second, then nodded a barely perceptible yes, as if trying not to reveal how intimidated he was. And that's how we ended up on the dance floor, me. A force of nature in a good mood, and him, a guy who seemed to have suddenly forgotten how his legs worked. The first dance was chaotic. Kodran seemed to have two left feet, and I was determined to pull him out of his comfort zone. At one point, he tried a more complicated move and ended up stepping on my foot. "Sorry," he said, red as a lobster, while I burst out laughing. "Don't worry, Kodran. Dancing is like life. Sometimes you step on someone, other times you get stepped on. The important thing is to get up and keep going." As the night went on, I managed to relax him a little. I discovered that although he was clumsy on the dance floor, he had a fantastic sense of humor and a smile that could light up the whole room. At one point, we started making fun of his awkward moves, and he retaliated with an exaggerated imitation of my dancing, which made me laugh until I cried. But despite all this, Kodran tried to keep up, though his legs seemed to have a diabolical plan of their own. He kept tripping over his own feet, and at one point he almost knocked over a waiter carrying a tray full of glasses. I watched him amusedly as he tried to appear relaxed, though in reality he was sweating more than a marathon runner on the final stretch. The truth was, I felt good. I liked the attention. I liked the idea that someone who didn't know how to dance had accepted the challenge just to be close to me. And somewhere behind his adorable clumsiness, there was a charm I couldn't ignore. When the party ended, we stepped out into the night with messy hair and cheeks flushed from the effort. Kodran was somewhere nearby, trying to catch his breath after the impromptu dance marathon. I didn't know it then, but that boy who kept tripping over his own feet would become an important part of my story. A part filled with cozy moments, surprises, and a lot of stepped on toes on life's dance floor. After that party, we continued to meet, and one Saturday I invited him over to watch a movie. Kodrin's kiss was, how should I put it, like biting into a cake that looks spectacular, but the taste isn't quite what you expected. It wasn't bad, but I didn't feel fireworks exploding in the sky of my soul either. It was more of an observation. Ah, so this is how Kodrin kisses. Nothing more. After the surprise moment, we sat back down on the couch, him with a satisfied smile, me with my thoughts in disarray. I enjoyed his company, he was fun, but my heart wasn't pounding like a drum at a rock concert, more like a bored student tapping their fingers on the desk during math class. Dinner went by without any major incidents, which was already a success. My mom studied him with a neutral expression, but with a gaze that could decipher the intentions of any mortal. My dad, on the other hand, was relaxed, which meant either he liked Kodrin or he was too focused on the steak to notice who was sitting next to me. The funniest moment was when Kodrin tried to be polite and wash his plate. He marched confidently toward the sink, but in his enthusiasm, he dropped it right in the middle of the kitchen. The plate survived, but the noise was so loud that my sister appeared in the doorway with the face of a detective who had just uncovered a mystery. Kodrin quickly bent down, picked up the plate, and tried to maintain his dignity, but it was clear he felt like an elephant in a china shop. The evening ended with him politely saying goodbye to everyone, me walking him to the door, and wondering what this whole story actually meant. Was it the beginning of a relationship? A friendship sliding into something more? Or just a funny episode in my life, one I'd later recount with an amused smile? One thing was certain. Kodrin had the rare talent of turning every moment into a little comedy sketch. And, whether I liked it or not, I was becoming more and more curious to see what would happen next in this unexpected series. From that evening on, the dynamic between me and Kodrin changed subtly but noticeably. We were inseparable. We went to school together, ate together, watched movies, laughed at all kinds of silly things, but something was missing. There were no more attempts at kissing, no lingering glances, no emotional declarations. Essentially, we were in a relationship without a relationship. It was as if we were best friends, but everyone around us assumed we were more than that. Most of the time we spent at my place, which at first didn't seem strange to me. My parents had already accepted him as part of the family. My dad even started giving him life advice, and my mom would pile entire plates of food in front of him, a sign that he was officially welcomed. The only place where he didn't seem to feel quite at home was, ironically, his own house. If I insisted on going to his place, he always found an excuse. His brother was annoying, his mom was cleaning and couldn't stand guests. His television had a bad angle for watching movies. Seriously? So, without realizing it, our universe always revolved around one fixed coordinate: my house. Then came the detail that started to intrigue me. Andrea, my sister, calm, composed, always reserved. If I was fire, she was water. If I rushed in without thinking, she analyzed everything quietly. And lately, she and Kodrin were getting along suspiciously well. At first, I didn't notice. It was normal for them to talk. We were all under the same roof, after all. But as the days went by, I started noticing the looks, those looks that had something extra. When Kodrin laughed with me, it was genuine. But when he laughed with Andrea, there was a slightly different smile, as if they shared a secret I wasn't in on. So I became a detective. A discreet one, of course. If I had the chance, I would strategically retreat, pretending to be busy just to spy on them from the shadows. I would stand behind the door, in a position that would make any secret agent envious, and watch them. Sometimes Kodrin would run his hand through his hair while talking to her. Other times Andrea would bite her lip lightly while listening to him. Small gestures that, taken separately, meant nothing, but when put together, something was there. One day, I left the room, loudly announcing that I was going to get a glass of water. I sneaked back without entering the room and lingered in the doorway, watching the scene. Andrea and Kodrin sitting on the couch, very close to each other, looking at each other in a way I had never seen before. They weren't exactly flirting, but there was an energy between them, a silent complicity, an understanding to which I had no access. That's when I understood. Kodrin didn't love me, or rather, he no longer loved the idea of us. He enjoyed my company, but his heart had started beating for someone else. For someone who had always been there, in the background, quiet, calm, and the complete opposite of me, Andrea. I slowly returned to the room with my glass of water and sat on the bed, watching them out of the corner of my eye. They continued their conversation, laughing softly, unaware that they had been caught. Instead of getting upset, I burst out laughing. Of course it had to be this way. Of course I, the impulsive, loud, and tactless one, had merely been the bridge between the two of them. And Kodrin, with all his awkwardness, had unknowingly crossed to the other side. And just like that, from being the queen of the dance floor, I had become the queen of a love triangle in which no one had spoken out loud about what was happening. The moment I decided to talk to Kodrin felt like organizing an emotional release session. I had no intention of making a drama out of it. That wasn't my style. Besides, if he hadn't managed to steal my heart, he certainly wasn't going to steal my peace. So one afternoon, I put my hands on my hips and told him directly, "All right, mister, we're putting an end to this." He looked at me with wide eyes, as if I had just told him that chocolate had been banned on the planet. He swallowed hard, fidgeted a little in his chair, and then, in his characteristic style, tried to deny it. "What? How? No, it's not true." He seemed more shocked than he should have been. But I, with a look full of my sister knows everything, continued, "Kodrin, seriously, your eyes light up when you look at Andrea, not when you look at me." And fortunately, I'm not blind. He blushed to the tips of his ears, a sign that I had been ridiculously precise. I watched him, amused, as he struggled to find a saving reply. Nothing. Nothing came out, so I decided to make his life easier. "Don't worry, our relationship was forced anyway. I was dancing to techno. You were dancing to waltz. It was only a matter of time before one of us realized we needed to change the tune." He seemed relieved, though he still fidgeted a bit, probably fearing that I was about to pull an axe from behind the couch. But I smiled broadly and told him I wanted him and Andrea to be happy. That I still expected him in our house, but this time not as mine, but as a prospective future brother-in-law. 3 years have passed since then, and here they are, Andrea and Kodrin, dressed in white and black, looking at each other with sparkling eyes at the altar. Their story took flight, and me? I, the rebellious daughter, was planning how to steal the show on the dance floor at their wedding. It was my moment to shine, to have fun, to attract attention. Who knows, maybe among the guests was a clumsy guy who needed a queen of the dance floor to guide him, or maybe it was time for fate to write me a story this time. One without missteps, or at least with fewer broken plates. And so, my dears, I went from being the great lover to the great wedding planner. Kodrin and Andrea are now a happy couple. And me? I've reclaimed my supreme title as the queen of the dance floor at their wedding. And who knows? Maybe while I was shaking my hips to Despacito, someone in the crowd thought, this girl dances well, let's see if she knows how to love too. But now I'm curious. Have you ever started a relationship and realized that someone else in the picture was more suited for your partner? Leave your stories in the comments, because who knows, maybe we'll start a club of exes turned matchmakers. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Stories with Agnese, because who else will tell you such adventures? Until next time.